Hello, everyone. This is Nicholas Peter Ugero. Long time no see. Today, I have Andre Mytty on my channel again. He is the last person I spoke with since I last made a video. So, Andre, thank you so much for coming on. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm
Happy to
doing
be
excellent. I'm doing very excellent. It's great to
happy
talk
to
with
be
you.
back. Happy to
Yeah,
be back, brother. Thanks for inviting me.
yeah. You're basically the first person I was thinking of when I was thinking about coming back on because I
Thank
know
you.
that like we've talked on and off since then. But you've definitely been in my mind, and I rewatched our interview, and I really enjoyed that. And there's a lot of good things spoken, a lot of powerful things. And
Yeah.
I mean, we could have gone on even longer. It was almost 2 hours long, and it didn't even feel like it. So
Oh yeah.
I know we definitely had a lot more that we could unpack, which is also why I wanted to bring you
100%,
back
dude.
on. So
That
yeah,
was
if you
that
oh
was honestly like one of my favorite episodes too, man. Just the genuineness and the rawness that was felt in that interview, man. I think a lot of people benefited from that conversation, but just conversations like that where we can really open up and be raw and authentic and not try to put on a front like we're just putting on a show for people. Like, no, we're human beings too. We're trying to figure this out. We're all trying to work on ourselves and be our best selves. So I think that was kind of the message that was echoed in that one. So it was beautiful to share that with the world, man.
yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree because I when I was re-listening to it, I remember I started spilling some of my sexual stuff in the beginning. I was like, oh my god, I forgot I said all that. Uh,
Right.
so
Putting
yeah,
it out there,
so
brother. Hell
yeah,
yeah.
definitely. So yeah, for people that aren't aware of who you are and what you do and what you're all about, if you just want to give a nice description of yourself.
Yeah. I'm just a regular guy. I guess my day job, I'm a cannabis consultant. It's what I'm passionate about. So to get go to a job where I can tell people about cannabis every day and, just open up their minds about a plant that is one of the one of the most useful plants known to man is truly a dream come true for me, and really gives me a sense of purpose in my life. Before that, I was a landscaper for 10 years and that was backbreaking work, man. I put a lot into it and I loved being outside, but it had its faults too of working out in the heat in the summers and freezing my ass off in the winter. It was tough, but I learned a lot from it, and right now in my life, like I said, I'm a cannabis consultant and manager at a dispensary here in Lincoln. Shout out to CBD Remedies, and um, I've been podcasting for about a year now. So I think I hit a year last month and about to come up on 20,000 downloads, which was huge for me, man. Like when I was starting out, I did not know what would come of it. I really was just wanting to further the conversation. I was always having great conversations with like-minded brothers and sisters around me here where I'm from in Lincoln, but to get a reach out to people around the planet, and further the conversation, let other people get in on it, share where I'm coming from, share what I've learned up to this point in my life throughout my awakening and spiritual journey, as well as waking up to the corruption in the world and all that stuff, man. It's a lot to carry, and for the longest time, early in those days when I was waking up, I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, and everyone looked at me sideways like I was crazy for even sparking a conversation about these taboo subjects. And you know it's like people think those things are taboo, and I think some of the topics we're going to get in tonight are even more taboo than those topics, because it's like in either circles, like the normies or the truthers, like uh I think they're taboo in both circles, man. Like it either turns like super religious and dogmatic, or it's just a free for all, and there's nothing wrong with lust and pornography and all this shit. And it's like, well, I think we need to have an honest conversation about this that isn't currently being had. And if it's had, a lot of people just joke about it, or they're like, you got a porn addiction or you got a sex addiction. Like, that's like the best addiction you could ever have. Like they just make a joke about it. And like, this is serious shit. Like imagine telling that to an alcoholic, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I wish I was an alcoholic. Like that'd be such a fun addiction to have, you know, like, why are you complaining? You know, it's like, it's just this macho mentality that's like, okay, we need to open up a bit about the problems we're facing here and stop like pushing them down and not being vocal about it, because this is how we grow, man. This is how we evolve. This is how we further, you know, just building the world we want to see, rather than this new world order being shoved down our throat. Like sooner or later, you got to start to make those changes on yourself and quit pointing the finger at, you know, the corrupt politicians or world leaders, whatever it may be in this world running this show. But yeah, I mean, that's been my journey, man, is just figuring out who I am. The more and more I do this podcast and have these conversations, the more I learn from others, the more I learn about myself. It all comes full circle. And, you know, we're all just here to grow and evolve, as I'm saying, you know, and it's really a privilege to be able to be behind this mic and share my message with the world, and just hope that it may spark some change in someone else in the world that happens to tune into it.
Yeah, I have the same mindset on that. Just if I can just reach one person, that'd be great. And I know we discussed that last time as well.
Yeah.
So is your podcast? It's strictly just audio.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. So I tell people this a lot. For the longest time, I was running from video like the plague. I just couldn't figure it out. And then once I figured it out to like a simplistic level, like literally just putting my still frame of my logo in the beginning with my intro, and then just putting the raw Zoom file like in after, no editing at all. I uploaded, I started from the beginning. I was like 6 months in to doing audio only. I went back to the very first guest I had on. His name's True Sika. Shout out to him. He's a great guy. And I uploaded 5 episodes, I believe. And within 5 episodes, I had 2 taken down, and then they banned my account and I couldn't upload anymore. I did just upload one today, so I must have been let back in. I just quit checking it after I got that message. I was like, well, fuck this. I am just sticking to audio like I originally planned, at least until I was like super professional about video. Because with video, man, I feel like, you know, I see all these great podcasters that have like the full level production, like they have the framing around it, and they have all this sweet editing and all this stuff that I am just not on that level yet as far as knowledge of video editing and production. And maybe I make it harder than it really is, but I think that's what it really is. But for whatever reason, I am just mainly doing audio right now. But it does make things easier on me, because at the end of the day, I still have a life to live. I still have a job to go to. I still have bills to pay. And my podcast isn't paying the bills yet, but I'm going to keep being consistent for my listeners. I'm going to keep showing up every week to, you know, just continue to have this purpose that I'm on right now in my life. You know, it's given me a sense of purpose. It's given me a voice, you know, that I felt like didn't really exist before. If it did, it wasn't on the level it is now. So it's a blessing, man.
Yeah. I appreciate that detail, because I know like that's one of the things I try to kind of delve into more, is because most of the people I have on are creating content. So it definitely just lifting that veil, you know, and just giving them more of the mindset of people and what they're doing and all that stuff. It makes it more tangible, I'd say. Because like you're saying, like for video, you're running for the hills because of that. And you're like, oh, this is way too complicated and all that stuff. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to imagine that I would be able to do some of the editing that I have done. It is really simple. It's just a matter of sometimes you have to do a tutorial or something like that. But then overall, it's just the time. It really is a time consuming process if you really want to do a good job. Like that's what I've been trying to do with my interviews. I'm so far behind with those. I probably have like 10 that I still need to edit, but it's because I want to upgrade them. I want to make them better, and then I want to put them on these other platforms. But I'm I'm kind of burning myself out in that aspect too, because I'm just kind of grilling myself about it. Oh, you still haven't done anything. You haven't made progress on it. So it's a give and take. And some people can do like the schmancy stuff right in the beginning, like right when they're recording it. So they don't even have to edit it because it just looks great.
Right.
So that would be nice. That would be preferred.
I guess that's the perks of StreamYard. Do you predominantly do live streams like when you record yours, or?
Yeah. Basically, every single one of my interviews has been live streamed. Besides just maybe two.
So you're going back to edit those live streams essentially?
Yeah. So I take this video, I will download it, I'll put it on my hard drive, and then I'll go into Filmora. I use Filmora, and then I just upload it there. I already there's like some pre-made intros, so I just throw in like that Matrix one with the two pills, and so I just have that, put some music, put text and all that stuff that kind of goes with it. And then just go from there. And then I just re-listen to it. So I'm just listening to it. If someone brings up a topic, all right, this is a perfect time for me to segue it into an image, so people have a visual of what they're talking about. So it's and plus, if you watch any like James Corbett interviews or any of his documentaries, you can see when he's talking, and then something transitions to something else, and then it goes to that for a length of time, then goes back. So it's just all about just keeping an ear out and just saying, okay, this is a good opportunity for me to maybe look up an image, and then I have to save the image. So that stuff, it takes time, like finding an image and then making sure it's a good quality image, not some crappy low res one. So it takes time, but that's also to your benefit. Like you said, like you got a job, you got all these other things going on. So for you, it's just like, boom, people are still listening to it because they don't need to have that visual. Right. So, you're still getting traction. You're still getting downloads. I can't believe you've only been doing this for a year. I forgot that was the case. You've got how many interviews?
133.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I've been doing like 2 a week for quite a while now.
So what are some of like the people that are watching would know? Like some of the big hitters that you've gotten on your...
Some of the big hitters I've got on are like Sam Tripoli, host of Tinfoil Hat podcast, many others. He's pretty funny. He's a hilarious stand-up comedian. He was kind of in Rogan's circle for a while, and he was just back on Rogan. So Sam's a big influence on me as far as just getting me going in podcasting. He had me on his show for my first guest appearance. So that was a big deal for me. And that's what got me to take my podcast more seriously. So Sam was a big one. I've had Tommy Chong on, a lot of podcasters, man. Chris Matthew, host of Forbidden Knowledge News, Mark Steves, host of My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. Peter Shampoo, he does a lot of great work on, just the matrix grid and the layout of, these energy ley lines and how they correlate to everything. God, I'm kind of blanking, but those are like the big name guests, I would say. Would be Sam and Tommy Chong for sure. Chris Bennett was another big one recently I had on. He's like a cannabis messiah as far as like the work he's done on tracing back the history of cannabis throughout all the cultures and the occultic roots of cannabis and its use and different ceremonies and seances and stuff like that. Like his work is phenomenal. So to have him on was huge for me. He was in the original documentary I watched that woke me up to all the lies about cannabis. I had known about lies about cannabis, but that documentary broke me wide open. The union, the business behind getting high. So to have a guy like that on my show and Tommy, two guys that were in that documentary that literally woke me up and got me to start questioning at a young age. That was huge for me. So those are some bigger hitters I've had on that come to mind, but I think I have a very wide selection of guests from all walks of life, different thought forms and just ways of looking at the world. But also a lot of commonalities between them all as well. And I like to kind of balance it out with a steady dose of, corruption, conspiracies in the world, natural law stuff, more spirituality, plant medicine, just kind of all over the place, but under that umbrella, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Because I mean, me and you kind of have to share that in terms of not just having a specific niche
Right.
information that we're sharing. It's kind of okay. Well, I'll have you on to talk about this, because I mean, we're humans. We all have different or a multitude of interests. So
Right.
for me personally, it makes sense for me personally to be able to have people on that do different things and all that stuff. And that's why my channel is just my name, because it really is me. Like that's
Right.
I'm not trying to
I love it.
fake it till I make it or whatever else. I mean, look at some of my videos from last year when I'm crying my eyes out. I was tearing up in our last interview, So
Yeah.
it's I ain't no freaking guru
Oh, brother.
or I mean,
Right. Either
I'm
am I.
I haven't made done a live stream since March. Like it's sad. I should I don't want to be too hard on myself, but it's
Yeah.
that's what goes along with you, like with your doing the audio and all that stuff, because it's just strictly boom, I'm done. That's it. So in terms of like motivation on consistent content creation, because you've been nailing it, man.
Thank you.
I haven't been keeping up on your stuff, unfortunately. Like I haven't been doing too much learning
It's hard
either.
to
But
keep up with everyone, man.
yeah, but just like so I know that the audio, just sticking to audio is definitely a way to not get burnt out, because you're not doing too much beyond just the conversation.
Yeah.
But and then so you just keep adding those on top of each other. But in terms of just like mindset or like in terms of how much you're doing it, how many hours a week, like what are some things that are helping you stay motivated, not get burnt out, and continue to be consistent?
Oh, it's funny you said not get burnt out, because I definitely was feeling some burnout within the last couple of months. And so I was always trying to stay ahead, man. And, really my idea for keeping it only audio was not only the time I would save by having to edit video constantly and just like be bogged down by that to finally get them released, and just make them ready as quick as possible from the time I record to the time I can get it out to the listener. Like the time constraints I can hinder on that, like to get that less and less, the better. And for 10 years I did landscaping, and that's all I did every single day. Was I had my headphones in, listened to all my favorite podcasts every single day. And I wasn't watching the video of all those, you know what I mean? Like I was working while I was listening, but I was learning every day while I was working, so I was able to multitask in that way. And I loved it, man. I loved being able to just nerd out and just listen to podcasts all day, man. And just have that freedom to be able to do that. I don't get to listen to as many podcasts as I once did when I was landscaping for 10 years, but I feel like I'm more present when I'm at work now, helping customers and stuff like that. And, just seeing them as human beings as well. And like I said earlier, just getting to open up their minds and, plant seeds in the cannabis realm, whether it's making the older generation that, has all this propaganda in their mind surrounding cannabis, and they don't want to get high, and they don't want any THC, and just helping them understand that, like, listen, like if you're using THC for sleep, for example, like you're not going to experience the high. You'll be asleep. You'll just be able to sleep through the night, and now you can get off your Ambien. You know what I mean? Like you could get off this horrible pharmaceutical that you're on. And to be able to get a hold space for people in that way and give them those recommendations has been awesome to be a part of. So I'm grateful to get to do that, although I don't get to listen to podcasts all the time. But at the same time, not only do I have like a purpose with my day job now, I feel like I also have a purpose as a podcaster. So I have to like re-listen to my own episodes when I can to, check things for editing, but also, I'm being more present when I'm podcasting, because if I'm not listening to podcasts all the time and I don't have this information overload, I'm able to like be open to listen to my guests that come on and, not just rebuttal them right away like we do as interviewers. It's tough to like be fully present and not just be ready to shoot out something you have like premeditated that you're going to say, and just like fully take in what they're saying and, take time to take it all in and let it simmer, and really fully comprehend it, because a lot of podcasts go over my head, dude. I have to like re-listen to them like 2 or 3 times just to fully grasp all the info. And I'm sure my listeners do too, and I'm grateful that I have any listeners, but, um, you know, I honestly forget what the original question was, just based on being consistent with my show, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's I was just kind of laying the foundation to get to that. Like for me, I think I said on the last episode when I was originally starting, it was just reaching out to guests, like having the guts and the grit to reach out to people that I thought would say no, or my own insecurities getting the best of me and saying, "Oh, they wouldn't come on my show. Like, who am I?" But once I just could get over that and get past that, like they're just human beings too. Like, they see it as just another platform to, share whatever they're trying to share with the world. And, they're usually open to that. If, you're well spoken and you seem authentic and, you know, you give them the benefit of coming on your show, they're usually open to it. And, once I had a month or 2 booked out of guests, that's when I knew it was getting serious and my nerves were running like crazy before that first recording with a guest. I'm like, damn, this is serious now. Like there's no going back. And ever since then, man, it's literally been that same thing of, I'll get to the point where I'm like 2 episodes ahead or I'm 1 episode ahead and I'm like, oh shit, I've really been slacking on booking guests, because when you're trying to wear all these hats as a one-man show and you're the booker, you're the editor, you're the promoter, you're all these jobs in one. It's hard to find a balance in that. And for me, I find getting ahead has really helped with that, just to, give myself breaks when I need to, or I feel like burnt out that day from work or just mentally exhausted. I can reschedule a show if I need to. With the bigger guests, I try not to reschedule those because, once you get those set in stone, you better show up and, get it done, just because they're hard to book no matter what. So with the bigger guests, definitely be consistent with those. But with guys that are more open and, more on our level of growth, as far as, just starting out and getting their feet under them, they're easier and more reasonable to reschedule with, and if you feel like it's going to be a poor showing if you show up tonight and do a podcast, don't be afraid to take some time out for yourself and give yourself some self-care that you need, or if you need the rest, or if you're not feeling good, like don't push yourself through that. Like there's always going to be more guests to book. There's always going to be more shows to do. The sky is the limit, man. It's literally whatever you limit yourself to is how far you're going to go. And set high, set the bar high out the gates, and watch what happens, because it'll just continue to grow. If you build it, they will come, and if you continue to put the work in, you're going to watch it grow, man. And that's where I'm at, man. It's just watching my show grow from where it started is baffling to me, man. To last month almost hit 3,000 downloads. My first month I had like 200, and I was like, damn, 200 people listened. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy to me. It's almost like a dream to wake up to every day, to like continue to do this. And that's what keeps me accountable, man, is just keeping that attitude of gratitude and remembering why you started doing this in the first place and not losing sight of that, because it can become overwhelming and it can bog you down and you can feel burnt out. And you're like, I don't even have a personal life anymore. Like, I'm just in this virtual world all the time. But at the same time, man, like, I've met so many awesome people. I've made so many connections. I wouldn't trade it for the world, man. And to have gotten to meet some of those people along the way since I started podcasting in person has been awesome. You know, just furthering my connections throughout this country and around the world, man. It's a beautiful thing, man. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I definitely appreciate that, because I know that's one of the things I try to get across with people, because if people are just kind of on the sidelines, like I've kind of been the past couple months, and I mean, maybe the video stuff is way too overwhelming. Just start out basic. Just start out like
For sure, dude.
or just record yourself. Don't even post it up. Just record yourself. Just get it used to how you talk and all this other stuff. Whatever fears you might have, you don't have to take it to the level where I'm taking it, where I'm putting more stress on myself because I'm taking a whole sometimes hour and a half video and I'm trying to break it down and add images and make it kind of funny and whatever else, just to spice it up. And like, I'm putting that extra pressure on myself, and that's how I've been burnt out, and I've not finding that balance. And then when you're talking about having to reschedule, if you're not in the mental state, if you feel like you're not going to be able to provide a quality interview, then yeah, just kind of taking a time out. And I can definitely attest to that. I remember I was going to have Daniel Shane Maddox on my channel. So leading up to the interview I actually ended up doing with him, we were supposed to do the interview, and I had a mental breakdown because of me and my ex. And it was like 20, 30, 40 minutes before it started. And I had to tell him, I'm like, dude, I'm just bawling my eyes out. I'm freaking drank and I did this. Like, I'm just not in a good state right now at all. Like, and I apologize. And then luckily enough, he understood enough, he understood and was respecting that, and still was able to come on and all that stuff. So it's a lot of work. And like you're saying, it's dedication and not losing that sight. Like, when you were saying that point, that really got to me, because that's kind of where I've been, is losing that sight and leaving my ex and kind of resetting and understanding, like, it's fine to be alone. Don't be afraid. Like we were talking about off air, like ever since COVID, like it's just like the dating pool's gone kind of downhill. So I used that to keep myself around with her, because I was just in fear mode. I didn't want to be alone and all that stuff. So, but yeah, in terms of content creation, I think it's people just need to get at least their feet wet, just try something out. You know, if that's your calling, if you have any sort of urge to do that, I think that's very valuable. I don't think that if they delved into it, I don't think it would be a waste whatsoever. I think they can bring something to the table that's different than other people.
Most definitely, dude. And I've always found too, like, getting ahead, you know, if you stay a couple weeks ahead, that way, if a guest reschedules on you, you know, you're staying consistent, and you're still consistent with the episodes you're putting out. You know, if your listeners are comfortable and used to 2 episodes a week, and then 1 week you have no episodes because 2 people canceled that week, like if you were waiting on just those 2 episodes for that week, you know, it's a hard place to put yourself in, and it's hard to be consistent doing it that way. And there's a lot of podcasters that would disagree with me on that. And they put theirs out right away the minute they record them. But I like to build up a bank of episodes, because you know, if you don't, that could put yourself in those situations where, you know, there's weeks where you don't have episodes because, you know, multiple people got sick, or you didn't hear from them, or they forgot about it. You know, things happen. That's life. And you know, all you can do is prepare. And another thing for me, man, that, you know, some people might see as a flaw, or like something negative, but I'm not a huge perfectionist, and I can, like, doing landscaping. My former boss, he was very much so a perfectionist, and if we were doing a leaf cleanup, he would get every single last leaf, you know, and, you know, just the craziest of details, you know, almost OCD. And I'm not like that. Like, I like to just, like, let things be. And if they need a little tune up, cool. But, like, we're going to go with it, and we're going to ride the waves and see how people like it. And if they don't, then we'll deal with it then. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're so hard on ourselves, and I struggle with this. I struggle with that too. But we can be such a hard inner critic in the sense of it's got to be perfect. It's got to be just this way I want it. And if you can set that shit aside at times and, you know, just give yourself some grace and, you know, not be such a perfectionist to the point where, you know, you're burnt out, you can't get the episodes out because you're taking too much time to get it, you know, just fucking perfect. And if you can put those thoughts behind you, you know, you don't have as much worries all the time. And, you know, it's easy for me to say as just an audio guy, but, you know, I feel like that's a gift of mine, is just to not be overly critical of my work. And, you know, whether I need to take a long time before I go back and listen to it, because I'm like, I don't know about that one. But yeah, it's a blessing for sure, dude.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it, because I know we haven't really delved into any of the other topics that we wanted to talk about. It's
Yeah,
already been
we'll
a
get
half
there.
hour, but I still feel, I mean, I think a lot of people that have watched my stuff are interested in pursuing that avenue, and that's why I try to cover that. And I think what we talked about is valuable. I mean, what you shared is definitely valuable to me, and it definitely resonates with me. So I definitely appreciate it. So thank you for going into that detail.
Yeah.
In terms of, I know one of the topics you wanted to cover was shadow work. So
Yeah.
this is kind of be a little bit more open ended. So if you want to just maybe talk about how shadow work has been applied in your own life, some examples of it,
Yeah.
positive, negatives.
Yeah. So shadow work for me was really brought to my attention after going to an ayahuasca retreat for the first time. And, you know, having that therapy alongside, I guess it's called integration within plant medicine circles, but more so than therapy, but they're kind of interchangeable. It's like group therapy or like going to an AA meeting. It's a similar sentiment, but with the added bonus or caveat of having plant medicine work done alongside it. So you're able to kind of navigate through those mystic waters of the unknown, and you know, trying to make sense of everything you saw, everything you witnessed, all these downloads that were coming in throughout ceremony or any plant medicine experience you've had. And I had never had that before in past experiences. So for me, that was it really changed the way I looked at psychedelics as a whole, and just seeing them as more, not to say I didn't see them as sacred before, but I feel like I was kind of using that term loosely. And it was like, well, if I want to have some fun, maybe we could do a little bit of this, and you know, not taking it very serious as far as like doing that inner work on myself. You know, putting those intentions into the reason why I'm taking the sacrament to begin with, is to get that inner work done and have that therapy session. You know, it's commonly said that one ayahuasca ceremony is like going through 30 years of traditional therapy in one weekend. You know, and it's no joke, dude. That totally resonated when I heard that. I was like, yeah, that's what it felt like, because like my life got a major upload very quickly, or upgrade very quickly, as far as just awareness and, you know, just getting out of my own way, as I've said many times already, but just starting to look in the mirror rather than pointing the finger at others or placing blame on someone else outside of myself for why my life's a shit show, or why I'm not financially set, or why I'm not living the life I wanted, why I don't have the job I'm wanting to do, why my podcast isn't successful, you know, whatever it was, or not even having a podcast. Like, why haven't I started a podcast yet? Trying stand-up comedy the first time, just like it made me aware of just my own shit, essentially. And it's a metaphor that was commonly thrown around by the lead psychologist down there at SoulQuest. Shout out to Dr. Scott. He would always say, get out of your poopy diaper, quit sitting in your poopy diaper, and that always stuck with me, man, of like, how many times are we guilty of just sitting in our own shit? Like, we're just gonna, fuck everything today. We're gonna eat potato chips, not leave the house, just wallow in our own sadness and shit. And yes, there is a time to feel your emotions, to sit with your feelings, but like, put a time capsule, like put a time limit on that, and be able to get up from that and, think, what can I do to change? What practices can I get in today? Whether it's a 5-minute meditation, hour meditation, going out for a walk, going to the gym and getting some exercise, just getting some sunshine, doing some breath work, just all these beneficial practices we can implement into our lives. Yoga is another one. And, it's not to say like I'm like hard on myself to the point where like I have to get every single one of those in every day, but at least try to get one, at least try to take some time out for yourself throughout the hustle and bustle of this fucking matrix reality we live in. There's way more to life than just work, and that goes with podcasting too. Like, don't forget to live outside of the podcast, and take care of yourself. And so that initial therapy session, after drinking ayahuasca the first time at Soul Quest, just sitting in that circle and watch everyone tear up and get emotional and, let all their shit out that they'd been holding on to for so long was so fucking beautiful, man. And it really brought a lot out of me. And, the psychologist there, he called me all my bullshit right away. He's like, all right, cut the shit, dude. Like, let's get to the heart of the matter here. Like, what did all this mean? Like, not the flying dragons or, all the crazy shit you saw. Like, let's get to the fucking heart of the matter. And like, what was the deeper meaning beyond this? And, just looking back into my childhood and, the things that went wrong or the things that didn't go right, or, events that I had kind of shoved down and ran away from, whether it was through pornography, which was the first drug, most of us get hooked on from a very young age. That literally is the gateway drug. And it's the first like burst of dopamine that is just relentless, and it keeps us coming back for more. It's like we never get satisfied. We're always thirsty for more. And so that was a big one for me of, just seeing how much I struggled with intimacy for sure. My outlook and how I view women, and just, seeing them as human beings, divine human beings, the divine feminine, embracing that. And part of that was embracing that part of myself, not thinking it's not masculine to do yoga or a spiritual practice, like these things get us through the days, man, on those bad days when, we just want to chain smoke cigarettes or, drink a bottle of hope with a fucking stressful day. Like, stress is the leading cause of disease, man, always has been. And if we can look ourselves in the mirror and start to pick out, why do I have these behaviors? Why do I use nicotine so frequently? Why do I still look at pornography? Or why do I see women this way, as like sexual objects rather than divine fucking human beings, man? Just like you and me, like your sister or your mother or your daughter, and when you start to put that overlay over the top, not to like take it that way in a sexual way, but like just to see them as a human being at the bottom of it, is really, what started to rattle my cage and get me going on wanting to better myself. Just because, if I don't figure out, why I am the way that I am, why I have these triggers come up, in daily conversations or daily interactions. If I don't work on my shit, this shit is going to continue in every relationship, every friendship, every family interaction. It's just going to continue to play out. And you know what happens when you change, man? You know what happens when you start to become aware of these triggers and these toxic behaviors in your life? You start to want to change them, and you start to say, like, why the fuck have I still been doing this same shit I've always been doing and I've always known was like a overhanging problem in my life, but I just continued to make excuses for, oh, well, next time or tomorrow I'll do it. Or, we just always kick the can down the road rather than make that decision in the moment. And there is something to be said about, you have to want to change before any change can happen. You got to want it for yourself. Like, all the people in the world can tell you, like, dude, I know you got a drinking problem. I know you've really made a fool of yourself drinking. Like, you should probably put the bottle down. You should maybe go to an AA meeting. You should try to get sober, man. Like, you could hear that to the end of the week, but until you want it for yourself, nothing's going to change. And you repeat that cycle of insanity, making the same mistake over and over again, expecting a different outcome. I got news for you. It's never going to happen, man. You gotta want it for yourself. And, it's a battle every day. Every day we wake up and we're feeling a new sort of way. I think, having some daily practices, having a daily routine, making your bed every morning, those things can definitely help with that. But you're going to have some down days, man. You're going to have some stressful days. That's life. And, I think it's a matter of our attitude towards those stressful days and what we make of them, like how we can reflect on them, how we can learn from them to make days less stressful in the future when the day is already stressful as it is. Why pile on to that stress and add more stress to it, So for me, it's just been recognizing the toxic behaviors in my own life, whether it's, playing out unconsciously, stuff that was bred into me throughout my childhood of, various different child wounds, whether it was neglect or shame or guilt or, not feeling good enough, not getting the love I always wanted, not getting that unconditional love, not getting the I love yous, not getting the I'm proud of yous, I was well off growing up. Like, we weren't hurting that bad. Like, I grew up middle class. I did all right. Like, my family did all right, but there was a lot that people didn't see, just because I had a roof over my head and we had a reliable vehicle and, we looked like we had it all figured out. It doesn't mean behind closed doors, doors weren't getting slammed, voices weren't getting raised, constant arguing, many Christmases, just endless arguments, tears being shed. And, I looked at my friends and I was just bamboozled by, like, how can this be me? Like, it's Christmas Day, and this is just like, as a kid, not knowing any better what Christmas was, like, every kid looks forward to Christmas before they find out Santa Claus isn't real and all that bullshit. But just like the holidays being remembered in like a shameful way of, like, wow, that holiday was ruined, or my parents weren't there for me during this period, or emotionally available for me, just various different things. And this is not to, like, pile on to my parents or like push the responsibility onto them before I can change. This is to, like, bring awareness to, like, why I am the way I am. You know what I mean? You first have to be aware of where it stems from and acknowledge that to start to make sense of why it's still happening and where it all started, so you can get to the root of the problem. And I feel like that's the majority of addiction, man, stems from trauma and that original childhood wound that we never took time to heal. And we always pushed it off and we always numbed ourselves out, whether it was through pornography or cannabis or alcohol or any drug, man, or sports. I mean, there's endless distractions in this world to keep us from doing the inner work on ourselves. And, I'm guilty of it. Social media is quite the fucking time suck. I mean, it's a daily battle, but, just holding yourself accountable and noticing those triggers. Like when in your mind, you're looking at your phone and it's been like an hour and you've just been scrolling, you've just been wasting all this time. And you take a second to take a step back and be like, I should probably get off this now. Like, this isn't good. And at the same time, man, I do have grace for myself when I do have those lazy days where I'm just on my phone all day, just laying around, just being lazy. But sometimes you need one of those days once a month, or, every couple months or every couple weeks, whatever it may be for you. Like, we're all different. We're all unique, and you have to figure that out for yourself. But just learning not to be so hard on myself when everything isn't going perfect. That's okay, dude. Life isn't perfect, and you're going to have your ups and downs. And, that's just how life goes. It's a fucking roller coaster, man. But just riding that roller coaster and enjoying every fucking minute of it, that's the beauty, man. And, despite all the fucking negativity, all the corruption in the world, all the fucking bullshit we have to deal with on a daily basis in that regard, like, if we can just take some time out to like find some joy outside of that bullshit and not give all our energy to the bullshit, we can start to empower ourselves. We can start to make those changes.
All right. That was a lot. And a lot of it, I definitely, I like with the mindset that you had when you were talking about some of it, it's like, yep, I got that. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. So it's, and like the one thing that you mentioned that I had to write down was the coping mechanism. So that is for me is one of the linchpins. So if you, and the starting point is to understand that you do have some issues. Like you do, if you just think back, okay, yeah, my dad was a douchebag or this happened, that's the start. So, but then it's also just keeping an open like mind, like when you're like when you're saying like you're sitting there texting or just scrolling, and then you're catching yourself in that, and then you're like, okay, I should probably get off this now, and that's the whole thing. It's just you're in the process of doing something or reacting to something, but then you take that step back. So you're in your mind, you're listening to all your thoughts, and you're taking it all seriously, but then you just take that step back, and then you notice that you're doing that. You notice that all this stuff is playing out in your head, or you're going for that bottle of liquor, or you're going for that one hitter, or you're going for whatever, that porn magazine, or just going, that you're going to click on that website and all that stuff. And you have those thoughts, like take that step back to be observant of that stuff. Because the coping mechanisms, I think, are one of the crucial aspects, because it's the thing that's keeping you from dealing with everything. And maybe the coping mechanisms are linked to that trauma. Maybe this particular action that you're taking is literally what you were doing back then too. So like when like the example, porn, that was one, like you were saying, one of the first drugs that people do. Like they get that dopamine hit, and you can access it anytime you want, or you can do whatever. I mean, like you can just go in the bathroom and start doing it. And it's like, I was doing that back then because my parents were fighting and all this other stuff. I was getting like, I wasn't successful with women and all that other stuff. So it checked off all these boxes, and it just made me feel good. And I didn't understand the consequences of it. But yeah, so it's tied all with all that nostalgia and all that other stuff. And I've just habitually been doing it as a coping mechanism. So I don't think about it, but it's destroying me. It was destroying me. And that was the biggest thing I had to get over, which was last year. And like you said, it has to be you that wants to do it. It can't be someone else saying it, and they can say it all they want. And like when you're talking to me right now, if you're talking to me and it's resonating with me, and I'm getting like these mental and physical reactions, I'm just like, yeah, it's a great point. I got to start thinking this way or whatever else. But then it's like, I still got to implement it. Like you were saying with when you went to your ayahuasca, you had to integrate it. It wasn't just doing this. Okay, wham, bam. I cried. I saw a dragon and I'm going home.
Time to go back next weekend. No.
Yeah, time to go back. No, it's like you have to take that mindset, that completely different mindset that you had at the time when you're going through all that stuff and the processes and the like eureka moments that you had, but you have to integrate it too. And that's a grueling thing. And it's having that mindset of, there's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. There's been days where I just sit here and I'm smoking and I'm not doing anything. I'm like, shit, I should probably cut the grass, or I should do this. So it's like, it just seems too daunting. I don't want to do that crap. that's just too much. I just want to be lazy as hell. And it can be where it just compounds and all that stuff. So it's very important. I think the coping mechanisms are a huge thing.
Yeah.
That's just the start of shadow work, because then that gives you that time to have those thoughts that you're scared of having, or those emotions. And then like the attitude towards stressful days, that's also very important. Like, you're having a bad day, but then it's stressful, and then it just gets worse. You make it worse by just the way that you're perceiving it, and the way your attitude is, and the way you're looking at it.
Yeah.
There could be maybe 10 things that were positive that day, but you're just not thinking about them. You're thinking about the negatives. Yeah, the shadow work, like things that I've done. One thing was removing coping mechanisms as much as you possibly can, because then definitely opens up your heart, opens up that doorway. That definitely happened with me, and it was a very hard process. I mentioned that last time we talked. It was the same time I was losing my girlfriend.
Yeah.
She was pursuing somebody else, then she started pursuing both of us.
Yeah.
And it got to the
Heavy.
point where I should have left, and I wish I did. I wish I had the boundary up, but I was still scared and in fear mode. So I had to, like you said, like you have to make the decision at some point. So I had to wait like a whole another year and a half for me to finally say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Like, that's it. And I should have done it way back then, but you live and you
Codependency,
learn.
man. And,
Codependency.
there's probably a
Absolutely.
mother wound there too. If, your mother didn't, or left some wounds there, in some ways, and you might not be conscious of it yet, but it's playing out in your relationships. And this is the type of shadow work that comes to the surface once you start to get into these waters. It's crazy how it all plays out that way, but that's when you start to make those lasting relationships, the ones that you would never want to leave, or the ones that you would never even think about talking to another woman while you're involved with her, or anything like that. I think it's just that initial awareness of it. It's always the beginning of where it starts and where the change starts to take place. But like you said, we get into these ruts, right, where it just piles on, and whether it be a week or a month, or just a bad day. And I think at some point you just have to pull yourself out of that shit and decide, okay, I'm not gonna make crazy wild expectations of like, all right, tomorrow's gonna be the day I change. But the day I do 10 of these things I set out to do, I'm gonna meditate, I'm gonna exercise, I'm gonna, walk my dog, I'm gonna do all these things. Just start with one. When you're in that rut, just start with one. And I guarantee you will feel better the next day, just because you achieved that one goal you set out to accomplish. You made that one goal for tomorrow. Tomorrow came, which is now today, and you've accomplished it. You did it, and you can look back on that. Now you have somewhere to build from. Now you have something to build on top of, and it's a ripple effect in the right direction rather than the wrong direction. But as far as shadow work, man, I think, maybe from the surface level, it's like, it's looking into our negative aspects of ourselves, or our dark side of ourselves, and all these toxic traits. But underneath all that is just a child who wants love. That's that inner child. And again, this is where it all stems from. And once we can start to bring awareness to, those inner child wounds, like what's underneath all these toxic behaviors, like where does it all stem from? And what were those events in childhood that maybe we kind of put on the back burner and never fully processed, and we never fully understood why they happened that way. And we might have even perceived them in a way that, isn't fully reality. Like, we remember them a certain way. If we talk to the people who were there and involved, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, that wasn't that bad. Or like, I didn't see it that way. Or like, you know what I mean? And it brings more understanding, and just a deeper grasp on what went on there and what went wrong. And maybe it was nothing. Like, maybe it was like the slightest hiccup that you made into this giant mountain of a problem, and you used it to give you the excuse to, play endless video games, or, you know, constantly look at pornography obsessively, or whatever negative trait it was in that time period in your life as a kid. We all have different coping mechanisms, you know, or it's eating endless junk food. You know, that's a guilty pleasure a lot of kids have, is like all the sugar that's pushed on them in the candy aisles in the stores and shit. But, you know, just starting to peel the layers back and start to look in the mirror of, okay, who am I? How did I get here? And where do I start this work? And, you know, I've been reading a lot of great books on shadow work, and, you know, starting to apply the lessons learned throughout those books to my own life. And finally set out to find a therapist that was right for me. I I went through BetterHelp for the longest time. I was like, I don't need help from anyone. I would never join AA. I wouldn't fit in there. You know, I don't know. I felt like I was saying earlier, I finally wanted to change. I finally was ready to accept help, which for the longest time I struggled with being a people pleaser, which I'm not conscious of it in this moment of where that, or which childhood wound you could point to that led me to becoming a people pleaser. I think it was not getting the unconditional love I needed, or the emotional support growing up that I needed, or favoritism of my brother over me in different aspects, stuff like that, that just kind of played out. And just bringing awareness to, you know, where it all stemmed from, how I got here, and, you know, just building understanding around these things, so I can watch these things come up in my daily life, and I can notice when I'm running from something rather than taking the time to process it. And, you know, not kick the can down the road to like let the problem continue to build, because the more you numb yourself out and don't take the time to, like, you know, reflect on a bad relationship, or you know, a bad job, or whatever it may be, something that's really getting you down, or financial problems, whatever it may be, you know, take the time to like just take a step back and explore all options. You know, look at the bigger picture, and, you know, don't stay stuck in the problem either. You know, like, take a step back, process it while you're in it, and then take a step back and look at it from other perspectives. Reach out to someone and talk to them if you need to, whether that is a therapist, whether that's a good friend you can trust. You know, I'm learning that, you know, like in the Bible, it says, don't cast your pearls before swine, and stuff like that. I'm probably butchering the verse, but uh, just the sense of, you know, knowing when it's okay to be vulnerable, and having those boundaries up, and, you know, going out on a limb is a superpower, and to be vulnerable is a superpower. But know that, be careful with who you're sharing those things with, because people can use that stuff against you. They can throw it back in your face, you know, really weigh heavy on who you're letting in close to you. And that's not to say don't trust anyone. I think that can be toxic as well. But, like, you know, really weigh out, like, who's in your inner circle. Like, how are they benefiting your life? How are they uplifting you? How are they leveling you out or upgrading you? You know what I mean? Or how are they downgrading you? How are they toxic to you? How are they not motivating you to be a better person? You know, just taking a look around and seeing how that's reflecting back on you too, because, you know, it's commonly said, you know, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. And once you start to surround yourself with like-minded people, and people with similar goals and similar ambitions, and you know, seeing the world in a similar way, wanting what's best for the world, wanting what's best for your own life, wanting what's best for you, then, you know, those are the people you want to open up to. Those are the people you want to call when life isn't going so well. Those conversations can be therapeutic, regardless if it's with the therapist or not, man. And that's my advice to those listening.
Excellent, excellent. I definitely appreciate you delving into it like that because yeah, definitely a lot of great insights, perspectives, examples. I think it was just excellent, and yeah, like just like when you're talking about codependency before we started delving into this more, just that is an example. So shadow work. Here's shadow work right now. Okay,
Yeah.
so I was just looking up this article a couple days ago with my mom because I was telling her like how I totally have codependency issues. That's totally
Mhm.
what it was with me and my ex girlfriend Lindsay. It was totally that.
Yeah.
A boundary was crossed completely. It was there's no way I should have stayed with her, but my codependency and my fear and the fear of being alone and
Yep.
whatever else, I can't do this without her, whatever else. I kept myself there. That was my issue, and I'd have people tell me, well, you must like even with you, like people would say like, you must love her if you stayed with her. And then it never rang true. It never rang true to me. Like
Mhm.
it never really came in my mind. Like I thought about it, but I never really felt that.
Mhm.
And yeah, it turns out, yeah, it was totally codependency. When I was looking at this article, I had basically every single one of them, like every single attribute that a codependent
Yep.
person has, I had them or I have them.
Guilty.
Yeah, and so what's that stemming from? Okay,
Yep.
parents, my parents fighting, whatever else, getting hit as a kid, that being very shy, not being successful with women, the,
Neglect.
yeah, and then getting the addictions, and then like that warping my brain, and
Right.
then the dating apps and not being successful on those, and consistently failing and failing and failing, and not getting the person that I'm looking for, and all this other stuff, and
Yep.
it just it made it to where I was desperate. I was super desperate. I was sick of being alone, whatever else. I wasn't getting the people I wanted. So when I find somebody, I can latch on, and
Yeah.
that's what it is. That's the shadow work. Look at it, I figured it out. Like that's what it is. It's from all this kind of build up, and it's not just turning a switch and then you're different. It's noticing those things, seeing maybe some of the kind of the like the peripheral things attached to that as well, and then just slowly changing actions. It doesn't have to be day and night. Like
Yeah.
with me, like I cut out porn and all that stuff day and night. Like that was crazy. That was hard. That was very uncomfortable. But like you can just slowly start shifting, like you're saying, like just start doing like one thing that's going to help you out, like just
Yeah.
going on a walk or just putting your feet on the ground barefoot or doing something, anything that's enjoyable, knitting, name it, and just instead of doing a negative thing, maybe you're doing the positive thing. And when you're doing the positive thing, maybe you're thinking more. You're not
Mhm.
in that cesspool. You're lifting yourself up. So then you can kind of look down and see, okay, well, yeah, like maybe I'm thinking about this because of X, Y, and Z, or maybe I'm acting this way because of this. And maybe you can have some epiphanies and just more understanding. The shadow work is
Mhm.
just more of an understanding about yourself,
Yeah.
your life events that have happened, and just sorting them out and getting more details and kind of putting those pieces together. It's not too complicated. It's not
No,
complicated at
it's
all.
really not.
It's just the memories and the sensations and the emotions that you have tied to these things that
Yeah.
make it way bigger. Like if people just off the street heard that I had an ex-girlfriend or I had a girlfriend that I was seeing and she cheated on me and I cheated on her and all this other stuff, they would say something and it would sound simple. Okay, just do this, do this. Like you're obviously in a toxic relationship. You have codependency issues. Just get out. It's easier said than done. So like
Yeah.
we all understand that there's way more delved into it when it's in your personal life and it's your stuff and you have all that context. So
Oh, yeah.
it's hard. It's very, very hard. It can be very hard. This is what we need to do. Like when you said in the beginning, this is what we need to do
It's
to
uncomfortable, man.
we need to do this to fix
Yeah.
the world because we got to fix ourselves because then we're not going to raise kids and then not going to treat them a certain way because we're hurt and damaged and we're just
Yep.
going to repeat it in maybe in a different way, a slightly altered way. And so it's I think it's very, very important. And I mean, I could just go. I mean, we could just talk about strictly this for the rest of the time. But I know that we wanted to also talk about porn. So like
Yeah.
this kind of
Yeah.
goes right in line with that. So in terms
100%.
of porn, maybe if you want to just briefly go over like how it applied in your life and
Yeah.
then like the things that you've learned since then, and maybe some other information that you've gotten during that process as well that would be beneficial for people.
Yeah. I struggled with porn addiction at a young age. And, it really had a hold on me. And it was really a big coping mechanism for me, when I got bored. And it seemed to go hand in hand with video games. And, I haven't played video games in years. Oh shit, did I lose you?
Oh, no. Sorry.
You're back.
I,
Okay.
I, I, t- I took myself out just so people can just watch you. I should have just been doing that when
Okay.
you were talking
No,
before, just
you're
so they
good.
can just
I got
digest it.
nervous for a
They don't have to
second.
just see me just sitting here listening. So, no, sorry about that. I didn't realize I cut my mic out too, so I apologize. So yeah, just keep going. I apologize.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, so just at a young age, getting exposed to porn, everyone has their own story of when it first happened, but it's always so normalized in our culture. And like I was kind of saying earlier about the cultural taboo surrounding sex addiction and porn addiction, and most people don't take you seriously. Like if you bring those up in conversation, they act like it's fun to be a porn addict or it's fun to be a sex addict, and that means lots of sex, right? And it's like, you know, I guess that's one way to look at it, but what kind of sex is it? Like what is the intimate nature behind it? Is it sacred? Are you treating it in a sacred way? And the recent Roe versus Wade stuff. I mean, that brought out a lot of people's true emotions, and a lot of people were fighting endlessly on social media about what had happened. And I think that ties into this too, of you know just the problems that exist in the dating world today. Like strictly on the unjab stuff, like separate that. But even before that, like there was uh this massive gang of guys that are addicted to pornography. They have no control over themselves. They'll take any woman that will throw themselves at them. And, if they can make it happen, they will follow through with it. Whereas women, I feel like um, have different circumstances regarding, hookup culture. Like most women could get laid any night of the week if they chose to. That's just how it is in our culture. But there's men who go through their whole lives and never get laid despite how hard they try. And I think it's a glaring problem on a lot of things, but I think it stems from pornography at a young age. And how that echoes out to how we view women, how we go into relationships, and how we treat women and the words we say to them, just the whole nine. And I guess I'm going to start with this. So, if something is free, you're the product. So, pornography is like one of the most readily available free things out there. I mean, it's crazy how available and free it is at the end of the day. I guess you have to have internet, but as long as you have internet, you can watch as many hours as you want endlessly and not pay a dime. And you know, despite that, there's still women and men out there who make a living as streamers or all these different things, and you know that's where they're at, and I can't judge them for that. Uh, I can't judge anyone for trying to make a living or trying to pay their bills, whatever it may be. But God, there's better ways, I must say. And that's a different conversation for another day. And I'd be happy to have one of those. But yeah, so I think it starts in childhood. We get exposed to pornography at a young age. It becomes addictive. It becomes like a drug. All the dopamine that floods in. Um, we become obsessive with it. And, some guys are able to put it down better than others. I feel like guys really struggle with this more than women. I think women definitely struggle with it too, but not to the same degree. And I think it ties back to, how much easier it is for women to get laid as opposed to guys. And that's just the numbers, man. That's statistics. But I think it creates a lot of shame and guilt surrounding sex and how we view women and ourselves, and just the creepy nature of every time you masturbate, of like the feeling afterwards of, shame and guilt and unworthiness and, regret, and all for, a short drug rush of 30 seconds or whatever, and, certain people would argue masturbation can be self-care in certain ways. And I think, yeah, I'm open to have that conversation as well. But like, I think there's a lot to be said about the power in semen retention and how that can build us up as men and get us to lead in an honorable way to the point we do become attractive to women, to the point we're not chasing women, we're not desperately seeking women. Women are seeking us because of our just the way we carry ourselves and the vibration we're putting out into the world, just based on having that high vibration we're resonating in, just based on keeping our fluids, and using that energy in other ways that build us up rather than pile on to more stress in our lives. And it's just another way to escape at the end of the day. And not to say that sex isn't a great thing. Sex, I wouldn't be here if my parents didn't fucking have sex. That's the paradox of it. But I think it's the way we use sex. It's just like anything. It's a tool. You can use it to, experience ecstasy with someone that you truly love, and literally have a psychedelic experience, a meditative experience, a transcendent experience. But, outside of that, if it's not that, then what the fuck are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, we're just wasting our time, and we're not only holding ourselves back, but we're holding that person back as well. And sooner or later, we have to learn from that. And I think the Roe v. Wade stuff brought a lot of this up for people, and hookup culture in general, and what that entails. That we don't have this cop out now to just remove any wrongdoing, when both of the people that were involved knew what could come of that if they did the act, if they did the deed. A child could be possible to come out of that situation. And when it does, and to be able to have easy access to just remove yourself of any responsibility to take that on, I mean, I think it speaks to where we're at as far as our morals in this country, or just in our society, and in the modern age of just not having respect for ourselves and not having respect for one another. And I think it just boils down to having self-respect, and treating yourself the way you would want to be treated by others. And that means loving yourself unconditionally, and that means putting some of your toxic behaviors to bed. And pornography is one of them. I think it just dehumanizes the way we view women, which is completely terrible, and deteriorates relationships, and gets our mind to wander into other categories of pornography that we weren't even attracted to begin with. It gets our mind to wander about bringing other people into the bedroom. It gets our mind to wander about cheating, or being practicing infidelity. All these sorts of things that are just not healthy behaviors to operate, and hold yourself in a high regard, and truly be content with how you're living your life, and be able to look back and know that you had the power to change these toxic habits or patterns in your life. Uh, Pornography is a great example because I think it's one of the most common addictions in this country that is the least talked about. And I think it needs to be talked about more. Um, and a couple things I also wanted to hit on were, just the obsessive nature pornography brings. It's just like TikTok or YouTube catering to the short attention spans. But with pornography, you got all these videos just constantly playing one after one, or endless images on Google Images, whatever it may be. When you're in that state of mind where it's just you can never get enough. And again, it comes back to being codependent on that as a mechanism when you get bored, or you've had a rough day and you just need to relax, or I'm not going to sleep tonight if I don't get off, if I don't if I don't look at some pornography to help me get off, like things like that. Just looking at it from the outside in and starting to see like how it's causing a lot of destruction in your life. And um, not only how you see yourself and bringing on all this shame and guilt, but how you see other people in your life. And being able to look a woman in her eyes and not gaze down immediately at her breasts, like that's a common thing men will joke about, but it's like, come on, like we're better than this. Like we can hold ourselves in a higher regard. I know media and our culture makes the shit so normal. It's just so normalized to the point where people joke about it or they don't see it as a problem, but subconsciously within themselves, we all know it's a problem. And, that's just what I'm trying to open up about and be more vulnerable about myself, just because I know how it impacts the world. And, it needs to be talked about more.
Man, you were you were rocking it. If we had a live audience, they'd be standing up cheering, and probably a couple people would be crying because that was just so good. You made so many good points right there. I can't even like the Roe versus Wade thing. Perfect. People's backlash. Where is it stemming from?
Right.
Perfect. Yeah, you're not just taking it at face value. You're saying, okay, here's this. Look at the reaction, and then we're gonna take a step back, and we're gonna observe it. Like, where is this coming from? And it's asking the why question, the question that when you were a kid you asked all the time, but then your parents told you to shut up, and then you stopped asking it. Like, that's what we need to do. So, like, where's it stemming from? So, yeah, so like people's mindsets, I should be able to do whatever I want and not have any repercussions. Now, if you're gonna talk to me about like rape or incest, I don't even like. That's just like I got cheated on, and I almost killed myself. It's like,
Right.
so like, I can't
Right.
imagine that scenario.
Right.
I would tend to like go more towards you probably should for your own mental sanity, because you're probably gonna go
Right.
crazy. Like,
Right.
I can't imagine that. So like that's a different subject, but just on a normal basis of take personal responsibility for your actions, like you said, two consenting
Right.
adults. It's a
Right.
whole different ball game. And so like, yeah, it's like we should take responsibility for that stuff. We should understand like the repercussions of actions that are taken. So that's and like where's it, like the also where it's stemming from, like the porn addiction, like you were saying, like it could be that just that, like, yeah, I should be able to do whatever I want. So that's a great thing. Then you mentioned the semen retention, which I personally can attest to. Absolutely can attest to. Going from, I mean, because I was a like a bad case of porn. I was someone that went off the deep end and then
Yeah.
just kept drowning and drowning and drowning for another like 2 years. And I can totally attest to, once I stopped masturbating within 7 days, I told you this, like my eyes my eyes looked differently. It looked like I had life in my eyes. Like I would literally
Oh,
do like shadow work or like mirror work, where I would just be talking to myself,
totally.
give myself positive affirmations, and I'm just looking at myself. I'm like, holy shit! Like my eye, it's almost like my eyes. I
Fucking
don't even
doing this,
know.
baby.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then like the strength that I got, I don't know, just the confidence I had. I just felt much different. My brain was feeling better. I just felt really good. And like you're saying with the vibrations, high vibrations, like you're attracting that. Like
Wow.
totally, I could totally feel like I wasn't just in that bad space. I felt good. I felt lighter. I felt better about myself. Um, and that's the people I'm trying to attract. Like, and like, I remember you pointed out like I think it was when we were talking about the last subject, we were talking about like just toxicity and people. And I think when we're talking about shadow work, you're talking about surrounding yourself with people that aren't toxic, people that are going to bring you up and stuff like that. And that was a good example. A great example is when I left my girlfriend back in June. I had a friend, Harley. He was living with me at the time, and I mean, we've been hanging out since last year. He's been toxic, but because me and her were so toxic, it didn't seem as bad. So comparatively speaking, it didn't seem as bad. But then once I left her, then his stuff just started just boom, rising up, and I could just see it. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I got this guy a job. He's blowing it. He got his ass fired. He's doing this. He's doing this. He's not appreciative. He owes me this much cash. He's not. It's like I'm done. Like I'm setting a boundary up. This is it. Like,
Right.
and thankfully he left as well. Hopefully he pays me back eventually. But he's not in my life. I don't consider him a friend anymore. I wish him the best, and I hopefully he pays me back. And then I just want to part ways with him, and that's it. But it's like, yeah, so it's like you cut some stuff out, you're gonna start noticing. If you start cutting out your own toxicity, you're gonna see that stuff around you way more. So you're gonna be way more. You're gonna be way more. What do you call it? Not where it's like you're. I don't even know. Like you're feeling. Like you can just feel it more.
Yeah,
You have like a higher sensitivity to it.
Well, I think it just shows how magical life is. You know how powerful we really are. You know, the elites and all this want to keep us down and keep us, you know, stuck in pornography or stuck on drugs or stuck in these addictions, these coping mechanisms, rather than taking responsibility for our own lives and empowering ourselves so we can realize how powerful we fucking are, because we are powerful, bro. Like that's the beauty of it, is like that hero's journey of, you know, having to go through that dark period to come out on the other side clean, and you know, recognize all that you had to go through to get there, you know, to look back on where you were and where you are now. And you know, it's a constant reinforcement to continue to hold yourself accountable, just based on the consistent days you get under you and months and years of, you know, sobriety in that way. You know, people don't like to throw around sobriety with, you know, sex addiction or porn addiction, but it is, man. It's another form of sobriety. You know, it's purifying your vessel, you know, in another way. Like we talk about detoxes with food and stuff, but what about detoxes with, you know, all the toxic characters we're sleeping with, or, you know, constantly running away through pornography, you know, just starting to bring awareness to these things so we can get ourselves out of it, so we can start to, you know, be the change we wish to see in the world. And to do that, we have to change ourselves. We have to move forward out of that toxicity we put ourselves in. And, you know, we have to forgive ourselves for being subject to that. You know, there's other parties involved in that. You know, there was other factors, and you have to forgive yourself, be graceful with yourself through that, and realize, well, if you didn't go through it, I don't think you'd appreciate who you are now, and, you know, being on the other side of it. You know.
Yeah, and just like there's another point that you made that I wanted to bring up, but before that, I wanted to like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned how last year in January, February, March, like I should have left Lindsay, my ex at the time. I should have left her then, but I kept my like the codependency, the fear, and all that stuff kept me around and kept her around until June of last year, or June of this year, and now that I took all that extra time over a year, almost a year since I found out I was cheated on, and then I finally made the decision. I mean, now that it's been over a month, it's been like a month and a couple weeks. Yeah, I can look back and I can say part of me is grateful that I put myself through that extra time, because it really just nailed that point home for me. Like I needed to just get that smacked across my face and have that terrible anxiety for a year and a half, where my digestion wasn't very good. I'm losing my hair's thinning out. I'm stressed out. I'm getting triggered left and right. I don't trust her. What's she doing? What's going on? Like I had to put myself through that for so long, I guess, additionally on top of it, in order for me to really get that lesson and be okay, and me make that decision to leave instead of it being the opposite way around. But it's a pain in the ass. And like we were saying with like cutting
It's
out the
no easy
toxicity,
trick.
it's not. And like you're talking about with like the taking out the toxicity, and then like things start like, oh, like you start realizing like how bad it was. Like that's why the cheating was so bad for me, was because I cut out the porn, and then I was being physical for the first time with a woman
Wow.
without having all that other stuff in my head and getting all that other input. So for me, it was like almost like it almost like was like the first time, because it just meant so
Right.
much to me.
Yep.
So then when I found
Changes
out she
everything.
cheated, that's when it just heightened the trauma, because her mindset was, well, you screwed me over last year, so I deserve it. And so even though like I was changing and my whole perception of everything was changing, her mindset was still in that. So like I still knew that it was because of my actions that caused, or
Mhm.
it influenced. It didn't cause it, but it influenced it. So like that was really, really hard. But when you're talking about porn being the most common addiction and the least talked about, I mean, that goes right in line with what, like the single family homes where the dad leaves and all this other stuff. It's destroying the family. It's destroying your ability to be intimate.
Yep.
And I know firsthand. So people can say whatever they want. They can try to disagree with me. It like, from being a worst case scenario, one of the worst case scenarios, like some people can find that balance where it doesn't affect them too much. But overall, you got to guard your eyes, like what you're paying attention to, what you're looking at all the time. It makes a difference, and it might be altering it in a very subtle way. Like that's how I felt back in 2007, 2008. It was a very subtle way. Like people were saying, like one of my exes was saying, that porn, it's bad for you. You should stop doing that. I'm like, I don't notice anything, but
Right.
it's very subtle. And then all of a sudden it sets in. So like maybe
Right.
people's mindsets right now, even if they're doing it on and off and not very much, and they have some sort of balance with it, it's still affecting you in some form. Like I remember I used to get off work, and that's all I would do on the ride home was just look around, and that's all I was doing. I would get
Right.
myself depressed by the time I got home, because I was in
It didn't
depression, and
happen. Yeah.
I couldn't meet these people, and they
Right.
weren't interested in me. It's like, oh yeah, of course you're with this guy, you're with this guy. It's like I would get myself so upset all the time, and that's all I would do. Like when you're
Mhm.
talking about looking at women in the eyes and not looking down or whatever, I mean,
Yeah.
that's all I would do. And I still find myself just habitually looking down an aisle and looking to see if there was somebody there, just because it's just been so long too. Even
Yeah.
with the change of perspective in my
Yeah.
mind, there's still a ton that I have to realize in terms of habits and just instinctual things. It's not where it's like, oh, I'm a guy. No, come on. Like you're saying,
Right.
we have to hold ourselves to a higher regard. Why is it that women are finding no problem finding guys? It's because
Right.
a lot of us are probably having this problem to some extent, or
Yep.
whatever else, X, Y, and Z. But a lot of it has to do with that. I think it's
Yeah.
just, it's not good. And I thankfully I haven't had sex with a woman since I broke up with my girlfriend. I'm glad, because I want to
Good
take
for
it
you, man.
seriously like I used
Take
to.
that time. Yeah.
Yeah. I lost track of how many people I've been physical with, but now I'm kind of back in that like 18, 17, 16-year-old stage where I'm thinking like, no, this is important to me. I got to find somebody that is right, and where it's not going to be where I feel like it's a joke. It's not. I don't want it to be a joke. I don't want it to just be, okay, I'm just here to just get laid and finish, and then that's it. And
Right.
I'm just gonna go.
Exactly.
Like, this is gross. It's so disgusting when I think about it now. It's just
Right.
so nasty.
Yeah, it's dehumanizing, man, completely. And
Absolutely.
what was I going to say? Just about how, the dopamine from dating apps, like you said, like you're like, it's going to happen tonight. Like you have it all planned out in your head. Like you're playing out these fantasies. And I feel like that's what stems from the initial porn addiction, is those fantasies you play out, and that obsessive nature when you see a good looking woman on a dating app or something. And it's also like an ego boost of like, oh, she liked me, like now she wants me, or like, you play out that fantasy in your
Yeah.
head of like, now she's really coming after me, like it's happening now, and like she hasn't even said hello to you. Like, she just matched you, dude. Like, settle down. And like, just the mental gymnastics dating apps play with our heads, dude. It's such a trip. But I'm sure you
Absolutely.
deal with that too.
And that's another thing I would do. It's like maybe there's a person I like, and yeah, I'm finally getting some sort of attention, even if it's in person or a dating app or whatever. And yeah, you just have all these fantasies, or like, yeah, we're gonna maybe we're going to date or we're going to do this. Like, what's an activity we can do? It's like, yeah, like you said, like she hasn't even responded yet. Like maybe it was maybe she accidentally clicked you. Like,
It's so funny looking back on it, like looking at myself in those moments of like, oh, feeling on top of the world. It's like, dude, you just got a match. Like, settle down.
yeah, one thing I did do recently, it was a few weeks, like just few weeks ago. Like I stayed up. I laid down at like 12. I didn't go to sleep until 4 or 5 in the morning, and I was supposed to be up at 8 to help my mom out. But I was going on Facebook Messenger, and I was just looking at some of the tech or the messages I had back and forth with all these different people, like 10
Mhm.
years ago. I'm just thinking to myself, holy shit, I did not realize how bad I was. Like
Yeah.
just flip of a like turn on a dime, and like I'm just completely negative. Oh, sorry for bothering you.
I
I'm an
could say the
asshole. I'm a
same thing.
loser, and I'm just self-sabotaging. Like, dude,
Yep.
like we literally had like four
Self-sabotage.
messages,
Yes,
four
dude.
messages back and forth. They're like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like, he just went from 0 to 100 or
Right.
negative 100 because now he's just wallowing in his own shit.
Yeah.
Now he's sitting in his diaper.
Yeah, because like women want confident men, and if you come like out of desperation or poor me or like constantly saying you're sorry or apologize, and they're like, what the fuck are you sorry for? Like, they like you self-sabotage, like you said. You've already copped yourself out to where you're at as far as your growth and your healing process, and they automatically are framing you as, oh, he's one of those guys or he's a pig, and just to be conscious of that is such a blessing, man. And to be on the other side and like look back on it and have those lessons to be learned from those experiences of where we were just looking for a codependent or looking for someone to satisfy us when we were bored or just give us some attention. I think all that stuff stems from childhood, of not getting that attention when we were younger, so seeking it out in a nurturing feminine female that's out there that you're seeking out, and there is something to be said about companionship and having a shoulder to lean on, and just having a best friend in life that can balance you out. But at the same time, like, you got to find yourself. You got to truly get to know yourself and love yourself, and warts and all, all your shit in the past, all your shit now that you're still struggling with, just being able to love yourself and continue that into a relationship, so you're not in this toxic state when you get into a relationship and you're just bringing that toxicity and baggage into it. So you're already going into it with a bad mindset to begin with, so you're just going to continue to repeat that cycle of bad relationships and childhood traumas playing out in your adult relationships. It's like, fuck, dude.
Yep, and then it snowballs because you make these bad decisions because of these past instances, and then you create more memories and past
Yep.
instances that you're gonna regret and you're gonna look back on and give yourself crap about. And
Yep.
that's totally what I was doing. Oh my god, it was so bad. Just
Yeah.
just porn, self-sabotage. I'm not good enough. Whatever else. Maybe I shouldn't have dated you in the first place, and I was just doing it out of desperation, like you're saying, or to pass the
Yeah.
time or to get some sort of company. And it's yeah. And then just, piling it on. Oh, there's another person I hurt. I'm such an asshole. I'm an asshole. It's like, yeah, this and like the stories that people tell each other themselves, and like the warts that they are ashamed of, and the scars. And it's brutal. Man, I think realistically, me and you should just probably just, if we're gonna talk, we should probably just focus on one subject, because we could talk about one
Right.
subject for the whole
Right.
time, because there's so much to we can delve into. So we're already catching up to what we were at last time. So if we want to talk about cannabis and medicinal
Yeah.
plants, because I know
Yeah.
that's what you wanted to talk about it too. If we can find some way to segue it into that,
Yeah. Totally, man. Cannabis has played a big role in, just starting to question things and also get to know myself and bring on a lot of times of introspection and, also learning to respect it like a woman. And because it is a feminine plant medicine that is very nurturing and comforts you when you're having a bad day or stressed out. She's very nurturing in that way. And, just building a healthy relationship with it and not using it as just a coping mechanism, but treating it like a medicine and treating it more ceremonially of, when the time is right to use it, whether that's 2 days a week, a couple times a month, a few times a year, whatever it is for you. Cannabis affects us all differently, and we're all unique in our tolerances and, what we can handle and what we can't handle. And I always tell people too, like, even if you don't like that paranoia that comes on, like a lot of people say, cannabis makes me paranoid. Well, maybe, just maybe, it's making you look into your shadow, that shadow aspect of you that you don't want to see, that you're not taking the time to look at. Your thoughts are racing. You're like, damn, like I really fucked up today. Like, where am I at in life right now? Like all these things are just flooding over you, dude. And that can be scary for people that aren't ready to face it, man. But at the same time, it can be a blessing and a wake-up call. And it can also, call you back to maybe put the cannabis pipe down for a little while and take time to integrate all those downloads that came through. People forget, cannabis is psychoactive. It is a psychedelic in that way, a very mild one. But most people don't realize when you consume cannabis in edible form, the Delta-9 THC is metabolized in a way that it totally transforms into a whole nother cannabinoid called 11-hydroxy, which is actually 10 times stronger. So it is going to be more psychedelic in that way, similar to, mushrooms or other plant medicines. And, to not take it with a grain of salt and not abuse it like a woman that you're just going to endlessly obsess over and think you need it every minute of every day. That's when I feel like it has more of a hold on you than you have a hold on it. And, it's not really serving a good purpose in your life. And, then you start to point the finger at cannabis as the problem. Like cannabis is making me lazy. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe your relationship with cannabis and, that relationship, not only to cannabis, but to all these other toxic behaviors in your life are playing out. Cannabis is just at the forefront, maybe for you out there listening. I've been there, and I used to smoke sun up to sundown. And, there's times where I enjoy nothing, just being sober and taking some time out to, build up my tolerance again and just appreciate reading more and having dreams come back to me and stuff like that, that when I am, in my cannabis use of daily use or weekly use or whatever, it allows me to like see both sides and like detox from it and appreciate it more when I come back to it. So there's that. I think CBD is also a great medicine as well, and helps a lot of people with anxiety and that do get paranoia that they're not ready to face with THC. And, it can also be a great placebo for those trying to wean off getting high all the time on THC. And they feel like it's not really serving them a purpose anymore. That's the first time I was able to stop once I got started, was using CBD as a placebo for 30 days just to prove to myself I could, because I never had to get drug tested for any job or was never on probation. Luckily, never got in trouble. And so that just came down to me wanting to do it for myself, me wanting to change and to prove myself I was worthy to change. I was worthy to not rely on cannabis just to, exist and be fulfilled and be content with my day. Like it was like the reward system I had built up. But, I think it is highly beneficial in one way or another. I think people love to look back on things and say, I never had a problem with it, or that never served a purpose in my life. You see it a lot with the baby boomers and, the hippie culture that they came out of. There's a lot that, never did psychedelics again, and will shame people that do psychedelics today when they were doing them when they were in their 20s, and it's like, a lot of those people, like at the time and at that moment in their life, like it might have gave them a huge message that really changed their life for the better, and they never did LSD or whatever plant medicine they tried for themselves throughout that period. But to say it had no purpose or it's of no benefit to anyone, I think is overlooking, you know, what you experienced and what other people experience. And that's you trying to dictate what others do with themselves. And, that's the same thing with Roe v. Wade, like, yeah, I'm not going to advocate for the mother of my child to get an abortion, but if a woman wants to do that, like that's up to her. Like that's on her to weigh on her conscience, like if she has karma to play out from that, like that's on her, like that's not my right to like tell her she can't do that. If she wants to go do that, like go ahead. Like that's just one of those slippery slopes, when there is those rare exceptions like incest or abortion or incest or rape. And I don't want to come off like a dogmatic preacher here, because I've been raised in that, I've been around that, and I'm not that. So if I come off as that, please check me on it, because that's the last thing I'm trying to emulate. I'm just trying to speak by truth and hope people gain something from it. But I'm a heavy cannabis advocate, just based on the role it's played in my awakening journey, and just getting me to think outside of the box, and finding a healthier relationship as the years have gone by, and seeing how I've used it as a crutch, seeing how it's been beneficial to me, and recognizing when each of those is playing out in my life, and keeping myself in check with that too. And that goes with any plant medicine. I've had some highly beneficial mushroom experiences that really changed my life for the better, and really got me to just open up to new ways of thinking about problems in my life that I wasn't able to see in the way I could see them through those experiences. And just getting to see the meaning here and the purpose here and the beauty here, despite all the bullshit going on in the world and the bullshit going on in your life. Like just taking some time out to fucking say, I'm proud of you, dude. I fucking love you. You're doing awesome. You're doing your best. And, don't be so fucking hard on yourself.
Yeah, once again, a lot of really good points. The one of them that really stood out was when you were saying how people mentioned they get paranoid,
Yeah.
and then it's such a good point, because I never,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought about that. And once you said it, it just clicked, and that's why I was cracking up, because it just makes so much sense. Yeah, maybe it's bringing thought, like things to the front that you haven't really thought about, and it's making you very uncomfortable, and that's why you're getting paranoid. Maybe you're just getting like very anxious because like these things are kind of building up, and you've been pushing them down for so long. So that was a really good point, and I'm sure, like, obviously some of it is just the way that they're reacting to it, whatever strain it may be, or whatever, how much they took. But
Right.
yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if they're not like when you're talking about doing it periodically. Like I can definitely attest to that. Recently, I've been able to. Maybe it's because I've been going to the gym, and then I got my bicycle fixed, so I've been able to do that and get back into doing that and getting like just all the sweat and all the toxins out and all that stuff. And like I was telling you about the Shilajit that I'm taking, So that I've been noticing a real big improvement in terms of my stamina and all that stuff. But yeah, and then like there's some days I just come home and I already went to work and then I did a bike ride or I went to the gym. I come back home and it's like I don't even want to smoke.
Right.
It's like, oh, I don't
Right.
need to do it right now. And like
Not that natural dopamine, baby.
yeah, and
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm finally starting to find a balance with weed for the first time ever. It's maybe because I've taken a lot of toxic stuff out of my life. I'm
Good
not
for you,
sure.
man.
Maybe I'm supplementing it in with more good stuff. I'm not sure what it is, but I've been able to find a nice balance with it for the most part. It's still not perfect, but because I still went from porn to then kind of bringing back in the weed and the gaming. And then I just think to myself, well, this is not even close to as bad in terms of just like my mental state, I guess. So then I can abuse that stuff at times. But yeah, for me, when I do it periodically, the good example is like I wasn't smoking for a few days. I ended up smoking. I was going back to my mom's house just a couple months ago when I was in the middle of moving. And me and her were not having that great of a time living together again. And when I smoked and I was driving to her house, I realized like it was just clicking in my head when I was thinking, and I realized she's taking what like I do a certain action and maybe I leave a dish or do something like that. She sees that action and she assumes that I did it for X, Y, or Z reason. And then she takes it personally, and then she then proceeds to maybe do something or act in a certain way to me, and then vice versa. Like she does something, like I have my soap on top of the counter. She moves it down from behind somewhere. I'm like, why is she moving this? Like, she must be doing this to piss me off or whatever. So I realized that we were assuming, and then we're taking things personally, and then we're taking it out on each other. So I went home. I talked to her about it. I'm like, I'm thinking that this is what's going on, and I just want to let you know that I'm not trying to do anything on purpose like that to upset you. And then after that, we're fine. We're fine. We haven't basically had any sort of issues since then. When I go to visit, no issues. Like I can end up living. I can live with her again, and we wouldn't probably have that issue because I smoked and I didn't just do it for fun. I was actually I was driving in my car without any music on, and I was just thinking. And I was realizing that I was like, yeah, okay, I gotta talk to her about it. And I talked to her about it, and now we're doing a lot better because I took the substance and I was using it for a purpose. I wasn't just doing it for fun. I did it just to contemplate and to think, because I know that if I take days away from it, then it accentuates those things. It's not where it's cloudy. It's more where like it just helps me think, I guess. So if I do it all the time, it gives me like a negative mindset and all that stuff. I can become just a freaking bump on a log. But if I do it periodically, like you were saying, like definitely detoxing from rampant use. Because that's what I was doing, like you were doing.
Good for you,
and then ingesting it, that was interesting because I definitely could feel when I would ingest it or do like a cookie or whatever. I definitely noticed that it did seem stronger. Like I knew that if you didn't burn it, like when you burn it, you lose so much of the THC. So I knew that when you eat it, you're not burning it that way. But I didn't realize that it also created a different cannabinoid that also altered that. So that's very interesting. I didn't realize that as well.
Dude, I've literally tripped out on cannabis butter. I ate raw butter one time and I had way too much. Like I took like a spoonful, but it was just way too much, more than I thought I took. Like, and it was too late to like undo what I had done. And dude, my thoughts were like racing like crazy. Like it felt like a mild mushroom experience. Like it was on that level. And I had never like experienced cannabis in a psychedelic way like that outside of like, the first few times trying it. You have those initial experience when you're finding out what that feeling feels like, the good old days. But I feel like to each their own on that, and I think it's a learning process of what works for you. And that's a beautiful thing, man, to have those moments of introspection. And I think when we could look back at like how the ancient cultures used to use things like cannabis, which is kind of lost history. If most people don't seek it out on their own, I feel like it's coming back into society and more history is being shown on it. But if you go deep into the spiritual and sacred nature of it, and the yogis that would use it and different yogic practices and stuff like that, like they would use it as like a meditative tool. And I feel like if you're just using it to play video games or go to work or do something that's already not like a great task to be doing, as far as like, are you passionate about it? Like, is it like keeping your fire burning? Is it keeping your spirit alive? Like, all that factors into the container you're using the cannabis in,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then absolutely. And with shrooms, like that was definitely something that was very powerful for me. In 2019, I remember I did it. I'd already done it like a couple times before that, but this was like the most I had taken. I did like a whole eighth on my own, and I was with my I was seeing Lindsay at the time. This was 2019, so like, but she wasn't that interested in me, so it was still kind of casual. But my best friend Jenny, she was really into me. She really, really liked me. I didn't appreciate her enough in that aspect, and I do feel bad about that for sure. But because she was not wanting to hang out with me anymore because she was upset because I was seeing her. But I took those shrooms, and like that was the day that she was gonna say goodbye to me. And then just when you take shrooms, for me, like just your intuition just skyrockets. Like just the amount of like everything else kind of just falls away. You're more in the moment.
Yeah.
You're really thinking, like you're really doing introspection, and your intuition's just on fire. And yeah, I was gonna walk her to her car. I was like, I don't want you to go. I was like I just want you to stay here. Like I just don't want you to leave. So like we ended up, I mean, I was bawling my eyes out. I was cracking up, and I was bawling my eyes out more. I was apologizing to her. I was telling her that I cared about her so much. She means a lot to me. And like I guess my intuition was telling me, don't go with this one. Go with the one that you're hanging out with right now. And I didn't listen to that. So that's where I ended up being.
Wow.
Maybe that's why. But yeah, like it is very powerful. Like for her, like she even said like that was her favorite time she ever spent with me, because I wasn't delirious. I wasn't delirious. I wasn't just talking nonsense.
Right.
I made so much sense.
Yep.
I just made so much sense, and yeah, I just let so much out. I remember after like a little bit, after a couple hours, like we were outside. I went out like in a little corner to pee, and I just felt like a huge, like I don't even know, like almost like I don't know, a spirit, or like I don't know. I felt like something was coming out of me, like something tangible, like I was just releasing something. I was just like,
oh yeah,
I was like, wow,
yeah,
it was nuts. And I just did it recently, what was it, like a week or so ago, and I did a little bit of shrooms, but it wasn't that much. But yeah, I was just kind of thinking about like what I'm doing, and like I gotta start speaking up more.
Yeah.
I should be talking to my neighbors. I need to be doing stuff. I know enough. I know too much to not do anything. Like each day that passes and I don't do something, it is a loss, realistically. And I shouldn't give myself a hard time about it, but realistically, I have a lot that I can give, and I can provide a lot of information to people. I can inspire somebody in person. I can recommend them to watch something or do whatever. Just give them some sort of nugget. So yeah, it was definitely good. And I was talking to this one girl that I met a few years ago as well. And she was talking about her ex. I was talking about my ex. And so it gave me a lot of good information too. Like a lot of food for thought, like a lot of the patterns that I had, and then her dealing with patterns of people and who's she choosing and all that stuff. So it gave me a lot of good information. And that's the thing. It wasn't just for fun. Like I knew I was going to meet this girl again. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. It'll be good for conversation and just delving into things. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's using it for a purpose, not just like you were saying, to smoke and play video games and just shoot the shit. But, cool if you want to do that for a little bit of the time, but sit down and think about stuff, maybe write. I think journaling is something we didn't touch on, but I think journaling is crucial for shadow work. That definitely helped me see my porn addiction, and then like how much of a contradiction it is, or it was, with my life and me creating content, and then at the same time, like right after I get off, I'm getting off.
Right.
So journaling is also a huge thing. I think now we're already past the time that we were at last time. And it sucks because like this, I want to get into this also, but it's already 11 o'clock for me. But I really need to have you on again. Part 3. I'd love to just even if we make it shorter, like 45 minutes, but we just talk about one
Yeah.
subject. Like
Maybe we should do a sideshow or something, man. Maybe this is a sign.
I think that would be good. Like I've
Yeah.
been wanting to do like a tag team thing, like where like
Yeah.
me and you have somebody on or something, or
It's like a
who
round
knows.
table or something.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important and very beneficial. I mean, I try not to have conversations that are just bullshit. So
Even if we do just one or two a month, dude, it'd be fun.
yeah, I totally agree, and I'm so glad that you were the one that I had back on
Oh
because
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just feel like you're like me, like you're just a
Likewise.
guy who's just making some stuff. You've
Yeah.
got some really good people on. I've got some really good people on. We're just trying to do our thing. We got our own stuff at home, our own personal stuff going on.
Oh yeah.
You and me have some sort of similar backgrounds, like the parents
Totally.
fighting and then the porn and then the cannabis, and so I definitely like. I'm so glad you reached out to me way back when, like a few months ago, way back when.
It's crazy how it happens, right?
Yeah,
Here we are today.
I really can't express how grateful I am because this was excellent. It's almost like I had a therapy session, and just give me
Likewise.
more things to think about. And I apologize if people aren't gonna sit around for an hour and 55 minutes, but hopefully, like you're saying, like they rewatch it or they just have it in bites. Like I do that too. Like I listen to
Yeah.
stuff in bites, in little pieces. But yeah, if you just want to let people know where they can find your work. I actually had the wrong banner up for like the first 20 minutes. I did not realize it. I don't know how I didn't.
You're
So
good.
it was
I
Brandon
didn't even notice
Spencer's.
it.
It was Brandon
Oh,
Spencer's
yeah. I think I saw that.
banner. Yeah, and I was like, one great work network. What's going on? So this
You're
is
good.
where you can find Andre,
Yep.
Spreaker.com/show/Ascension of the Chessman. But there's plenty of other links. But if you just want to let people know like content, where else they can
Totally.
find it, like other like places they can go to.
Yeah. You can find me on all audio platforms, everywhere podcasts are found, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Spreaker is my hosting site. So that's the one I'm commonly throwing around. I don't have my own website yet. I'm working on it. Hopefully, within the next year, I get that done. I'm just working my way up, man. Working with what I have in this moment. And that's a little more than the clothes on my back. So I'm working with what I got, and just putting one foot in front of the other. So yeah, you can find me also on YouTube at Ascension of the Chessmen. I recently did upload my podcast I released today with Roman Merle. I call him Homie Romy. He does a deep dive into antiquated transhumanism is the title, which are his theories and thoughts on how far transhumanism goes back, and how much technology was available in the past that maybe isn't commonly known. So we had a very interesting discussion. He did an awesome slideshow, and that was one of the few I've uploaded to YouTube as of late after I took that hiatus after getting banned. So thanks for hanging in with me through that period, and hopefully get more consistent with YouTube in the future, and more consistent with doing shows with you, brother. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much. If do you have any upcoming? Because I know you just said you just had a recent interview. Do you have any upcoming ones for people that are interested?
Yeah, I have a couple one great work creators coming on soon. I got Will Keller and Marcia West, two awesome guests I'm looking forward to speaking with very soon here. So yes, I have a full calendar booked out this month. I don't have the guests in front of me, but it should be another great month of episodes and continuing months into the future. I'm just happy to be doing this, man, and to get to share it with the world. It's a beautiful thing. So thanks everybody for taking the time to listen tonight. We appreciate you.
Yeah, yeah. I know that I've had like at least one consistent person watching, so I'm not sure if it was just one person or if maybe it's switched with somebody else. But whoever's
Awesome.
watching right now, I really appreciate it. It really does mean the world to me. And if for anyone that's listening in the future, thank you so much. Hopefully you got something out of this, even if
Yeah.
it's just one little nugget of inspiration that you didn't really have before. It really means a lot. And yeah, Andre, if you can just stay on afterwards, so we can just chat for a couple minutes before we head
Yeah.
off. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Andre. It's been a pleasure and an honor talking with you again. And just please stay safe and keep doing what you're doing and keep being an inspiration, not just for me, but for everyone else. So thank you,
Likewise.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, and have a great night, guys.
Peace.